Aisha will be speaking on how to improve resilience in Sahel countries against disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation. Thank you, Aisha. You have the floor.
Can I have the... Oh, okay. Thank you. Strange, it appears in yellow. Anyway. Okay. Thank you for having me. So I'll be talking about the resilience, to improve the resilience, because there's some kind of resilience against disinformation, but there is need for improvement. So I am Aisha Dabo. I am a co-founder and coordinator of Africtivist. I'm many things, but I would like to just focus on this, because my work in the last 5 years has been in civil society mainly. And Africtivist actually works to promote and defend democratic values, human rights, and good governance using digital tools. So civic tech is the core of the work we do. And we are present in 40 countries on the continent, and we have 400 members who are both organizations and individuals. So I think I'll just pass. The definition has been discussed since this morning, so no need to go over that. I will just want to give some examples of state and non-state actors of disinformation. Of course, we'll start with Russia. I think the previous presentation by Beverly, the one by Owusu and Pap and Joshua have given enough example about disinformation, Russian disinformation, specifically in Burkina Faso. And also there is the one in China, which is state-run media and infrastructure investments actually in China. When it comes to China, it's very difficult, and I'm sure you know to know who is doing what. Is it the state? Is it the private sector? Is it the Chinese citizens? Because they're all mixed up and convoluted together. It's always difficult to separate them. So we'll just call them Chinese. When it comes to Western countries, usually we talk about the fact that issues that are very complex and difficult are simplified. And there's this tendency of, seeing Africa as a unit or as the different 5 regions, while it's very, very complex. Even for us within our countries, the situation is very complex. So it's always difficult to present it to the media, especially when you come from outside to talk about it. So, and the history. It has been mentioned several times since this morning. It contributes to it because we are just mostly 60 years old as countries, so we can't just forget. It's not 100 years, so we can't be asking Africans to move on, while the remnants of colonialism is still fresh. So maybe in 100 years, 150, then we can talk about that. Also, 2 important actors that are part of the West, those are PR firms, and they do they have their own ways actually of doctoring things, which are very particular. Sometimes not necessarily disinformation, but manipulating information. And mostly they're hired by African presidents. Here talking about the Sahel, I'll talk about, we had Macky Sall, who had a PR company, French PR company, who was working on always on social media, countering the different narratives, even when they're factual. When it comes to security companies, we have FSG in Libya. There's this tendency of always trying to calm the locals in a way by having a narrative that's present to accompany any work that's being done. So if I was to simplify, I would say Wagner Group is doing the same, but like it's amplified further compared to just the minimal security company would do to be able to be accepted by locals. So when we talk about, and then you have the governments themselves. In Senegal, we have a specific case of something that happened in 2023 when the police decided actually to hold a press conference during the protest to claim that protesters were the ones who were armed and they were the ones who were shooting on people, while there were evidence, videos, photos of actually people in civilian, attires, mostly thugs, working with the police to shoot on protesters, because around number from 2021 to 2023, we've had at least 83 people that have been killed. That's the highest ever in Senegal when it comes to political unrest. So this is just to show visually in a chart format what it really looks like from 2019 to 2023, and the different actually actors. Western countries here is what I explained earlier, and the Western countries here include the PR firms that work usually for African Sahel sitting presidents. You have the one that was working for Macky Sall. You have the one for Alpha Conde, not Alpha Conde, for the Ivorian president. So they each have a role to play, and they contribute to the difficulties of, finding solutions to information manipulation, disinformation, etc. And given the complexity of the issue, it's important actually to have comprehensive strategies and also different partners involved. And I'm happy that actually NATO is having this discussion, even though your focus is military, but I think you also have a role to play, especially in the Sahel. So the first one on the top of my list is media literacy, and I think under media literacy, I will also include digital literacy. And many local populations are not equipped to distinguish between legitimate and information and disinformation. So that's a fact. And that's also contribute to the, especially with WhatsApp, people just forward information that they receive without even verifying, because they think if they receive it, if it's published, it must be true. The vulnerability is actually, it comes with the tech companies, the issues with the moderation, and also then the issue of digital literacy, because mostly we accept the terms without even knowing what they mean. And also because of the algorithm, you have, more, when you have a post with more engagement, the algorithm will tend to, suggest those information to you. It's after that we realize if it's false or true. So political instability also have created an environment where disinformation continues to thrive. And the false narrative that democracy is not African, and actually these, specifically the 3 countries listed here, also do use that narrative to say that democracy is something that's foreign. If you look at Mali and you talk about the Mali Empire, the first human rights charter, one of the first actually, was in the 13th century, and it was led by King Sunjata Keita, where the rights of all individuals, women, even environmental rights actually were acknowledged. So to have the junta leader and his supporters actually claim that human rights are secondary to security is just something that's, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. It just blows my mind. So this is something I got from the Africa Center for Strategic Studies, and it's a research that they did to indicate actually the different, misinformation, where it really come from. And they didn't stop on the Sahel. They, you have all the regions of Africa, and we can see that we have a lot of Russia. on the map, a lot of it. So they've identified the different players. You have Kremlin-linked actors, China-linked actors, foreign actors, Islamic groups, military actors, domestic political actors, and other undetermined actors. So this actually tells a lot, and it's a visual way of showing the threats actually we face as a continent. So these are I have a number of slides that will give approaches I think can contribute to solving this issue. And Dohalin in Wolof is strategy. So Wolof is one of the most spoken language in Senegal and Gambia. So that's one of my languages. So that's why I decided to put that. So building digital literacy to combat disinformation. So we need digital literacy program. At Africtivist, we have a project that we piloted in Mauritania. Now we have it in Benin, and we will be upscaling to 6 other countries, mostly in the Sahel region. And the goal is on participatory democracy, but we always have a fighting disinformation component in it. So we are going to have that. And one of the labs, we're going to have 6 new labs, and one of the labs actually will be focusing on working on disinformation and misinformation and raising awareness. What I didn't mention earlier is the fact that Africtivist was set up when I was young. I'm no longer young. So now the organization, it's not youth-led, but youth-focused, and all our beneficiaries are Africans under 35. So the next one actually is cross-border cooperation, and this cross-border cooperation is at 2 levels. What we call Africtivist Brigade is we are also working on a project we are going to launch next year. It's for the Sahel region, and it's going to train individuals or journalists to fact-check information, and we will create a network. It's Burkina, Chad, Senegal, and there's a 4th country. I think Guinea is not part of the Sahel, but with Guinea, where we will have a network of fact-checkers who will be working on their individual country issues to fact-check the information, but also will cooperate when it comes to regional issues. And one of the things actually we are going to do also, because we have a cooperation with Meta and with TikTok. I'm on the advisory board for Sub-Saharan Africa for TikTok. So we would use those connections actually to be able to quickly identify and have this platform remove the misinformation or disinformation that's going around. So we are going to do that, and I don't know, maybe something that maybe NATO might be interested with other countries where it still has relation on having I know ECOWAS has these hubs that do, how do you call them? Papa Amadou. Comment on dit veille en anglais? Yes, they monitor the media and social media. Yeah, ECOWAS as an organization has, I think, 4 or 5 in the region where they monitor the information that's published by the media or social media, and they do these reports that they send to Abuja, and then they're able to every day actually have a visual see what's happening in the region in terms of information, potential crisis that will come up. So that's also. So we are kind of replicating that with the brigade, but it's slightly different. So supporting independent media, it has been mentioned by previous speakers, the importance of having independent media. I think training is important, but I've been a journalist, and now I train journalists, but for me, it's not just the training, it's identifying the right people to do the training. Because if the journalist is trained and after the training, they are not able to use the skills they acquired during the training, it doesn't serve a purpose. So it's indicating or talking to the leadership of the media of the importance of the journalist be able to use that the skills that will be acquired. So what I do in the in Affective is actually when we are identifying people, we make sure that they use that skill by providing a stipend after to do an investigation, provide a report, at least we know that they're going to use that. And then we build a relationship with the media house to, making sure that this person's training actually doesn't stuck just with him or her, that it's shared also within the media house. So to have a kind of a ripple effect. The institutional support, we need to have strong institutions, and that also is not only on partners, but also on us as Africans, as countries, as government. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to be able to fight disinformation. But if the state is one of the actors of the disinformation, it becomes a problem, like what we had under the previous regime in Senegal. So the collaborative effort suggesting is partners actually in general, being Western countries, institutions, the UN, NATO, any other institution, and governments should collaborate to train officials and develop right-focused legal frameworks, because the policies are important. If we want to implement, let's say, digital literacy or media literacy, and we want to include it in a curricula, there are policies that need to be, passed, worked on, and implemented. So there is need for that collaboration as well. So this one is to be able to address one of the ways, actually, to have a balanced approach. I think it's important, actually, to have the difficult discussions whenever we are trying to solve a problem. So you will get that out of the way, then we start the work we need to do. And also there's need to build trust. I would say here, rebuild trust, because in the Sahel, there's this, I think Western countries have lost the trust they had. Because in the past, despite all the issues about colonialism, about specifically France's role in the Sahel, there was still some trust. I remember in 2012, when the French troops were going to Mali, to Bamako, to prevent the jihadists taking over the country. Celebrations were, people were celebrating. There were women who named their children after Francois Hollande, just to show that people actually, it's not, for some it's real hatred, but for others actually there's a way to rebuild the trust and rebuild the relationship. And one of the ways of doing that is being as transparent as ever. Be as transparent and let your intentions know. If you want to engage directly, let your intentions be known from the onset. And so I'm talking, collaborative action. So we need coordinated efforts between local actors, regional bodies, and international partners like NATO. And when I'm talking about local actors, I think the best allies right now actually are civil society organization and independent media to fight disinformation. Those are the top. And then you have the government when it comes to policies, then you have all the other groups. Because the media literacy and digital literacy in schools or any education platform will address that issue for those who are in that path. But we have those we call who are in the informal sectors, and those can only be touched by civil society and grassroots organizations, because they can have programs that will go on the grassroots level and reach these people. And specifically, Joshua mentioned radio. I'm talking about community radios. Community radios are so powerful and they don't have content. And this is not just a statement I'm making. They don't have content. The lack of content leads them to publish, to put on air anything they receive. So if there is content and there is good content for them to put out there, they will use it. This actually, I'm speaking from experience and the fact in Mali and Senegal. So community radios are great allies actually to work with. So yeah, I mentioned about, so the resilience, I think here it's clear, it's like all this misinformation, malinformation that comes from any part needs to be addressed so that we can have, local people who will be able to decipher. So this is just a mind map of everything I've said earlier, and the red dots are what we are doing right now, even though it's a very small scale, but at least we are, working in these areas as an organization, and hope that we will be able to, have an impact. And as a small organization, what we rely mostly on is the fact that we train 2 minutes, okay. We train trainers. So whatever information we give you, we provide them with tools so that they can replicate the action without us, because that's the only way we can reach as many people as possible. So thank you, that was me.